I'm Tom Anachini, Chief Investment Strategist at Guided Choice. I'm a CFA charter holder and a CFP certificate, and this is Trekking Through Retirement. Should I invest differently when I'm retired? A key concern to retirees about their wealth is a risk that most of us have never thought of before retirement, and that risk is called sequencing risk. Sequencing risk is the risk of suffering a large loss in wealth right at the beginning of your retirement. So you take your first withdrawal and all of a sudden the value of your assets drop a lot. And because you're no longer contributing, the chance that they're going to rebound might be pretty low, leaving you possibly to have to readjust your plans. So sequencing risk, in short, is the risk of a poor market return early in the withdrawal phase that is catastrophic to your wealth. So it has implications for asset allocation. Let's consider somebody who is unusually aggressive as a retiree, and they have their wealth invested 80% in stocks. That's more aggressive than a lot of people have invested even while they're saving for retirement, never mind in retirement. And then let's say we suffer something like market conditions during the great financial crisis, and the market falls 50%. Well, if you're 80% in stocks, that means your wealth loses 40% right off the bat. So whatever wealth you were planning to retire on now is 40% lower, and you might have to readjust your plans. Alternatively, let's say his neighbor is invested more conventionally with 35 to 40% in stocks. Well, the market falls 50%, they have 40% in stocks, they still take a hit of 20%, but they're trying to work with 80% of the wealth they thought they would have, as opposed to their neighbor who was now working with only 60%. The mitigation strategy is to have lower stock allocation in retirement, giving you a bigger cushion to absorb bad market fluctuations. You still need some growth assets, otherwise known as stocks, in your retirement portfolio because of something called longevity risk. Longevity risk is the risk of outliving your assets. And by having some stock in your portfolio, you can still participate in economic growth over the years and decades as you survive. And so the longer you live, the more likely by having some stock allocation that your wealth will survive with you. So the key to investing in retirement is balancing the growth with the security. I'm going to talk about a few different retirement savings philosophies that speak to what the assets might look like in a retiree's portfolio. There's actually a controversy among academics and practitioners, and that is the question of, should retirement savings be an insurance policy or an investment? Now, if it sounds strange to you to think of retirement savings being an insurance policy, what I'm referring to is a specific type of annuity. There's some prominent academics, Zvi Bodhi and Bob Merton are the most well-known ones. Many others who support the idea that retirement savings really should serve as insurance to support someone as long as they live. And they would like people to hold inflation-indexed annuities. Now, where do inflation-indexed annuities exist? Well, everyone who receives Social Security income, you have an inflation-indexed annuity. Social Security benefits are indexed to inflation in the form of cost of living adjustments. But the other school of thought is the more common belief that is retirement savings as investments. So Guided Choice advises people on holding a diversified pool of assets at an appropriate risk level for their personal situation, balancing growth and security. And so the comparison is the certainty of what's offered by the inflation indexed annuity and the growth and adaptability of the investment approach. I wouldn't call this a controversy, but it's more of a puzzle. And that is the question of, does income matter? Now you might scratch your head and wonder, well, Tom, what do you mean? What does income, of course income matters. Why doesn't it matter? But when I phrase the question, does income matter, I'm specifically referring to the preference a lot of retirees have for investments that kick off interest payments and dividends. A view that a lot of practitioners have is that investments are, I'm going to use the word fungible. And fungible means you can substitute one for the other. So if you have a stock portfolio that isn't sending you dividend payments, you can make a withdrawal. You don't have to receive a check in the mail. You don't have to receive a direct deposit. And there can be tax implications of both. But for a lot of financial planners like us, we don't see that interest and dividends are anything special. So if you want to have interest and dividend-centric investments, that's fine. I'm here to tell you that you don't necessarily need them, except for whatever you think is the convenience of passively receiving those payments without any actions on your behalf. It's really just personal choice. So, some takeaways. Retirees need a balanced asset allocation in order to manage sequencing risk and longevity risk. Another is personalization over norms. So just because you might think it's normal that retirees have a certain allocation to stocks and bonds, your situation might actually call for more or less stock. Don't pay attention to the allocation that your neighbor has or that you read the average retiree has. What really makes the most sense is what makes sense for your situation and your streams of income and your sources of wealth. Flexibility in income strategies. So you can invest in, you can have a brokerage account that holds bonds or bond investments or stocks that are paying dividends and sending you payments automatically, but you don't have to. You can make withdrawals as you need the money. It's really a choice. You're not compelled to use one or the other. And the key is to understand annuities before you buy. I understand the desire to have inflation-indexed income that Bodie and Merton support. It's a lot more common to find annuities that just pay a constant amount. So if you're going to shop for annuities because you like that idea of an inflation-hedged annuity, I don't know that you'll find many insurers who will sell you an inflation-hedged annuity, but you might have better luck finding annuities that increase their payments by a certain schedule, say 2% a year or 3% a year, which maybe over the long run will have you keeping up with inflation in general, although maybe not necessarily exactly on a year-to-year basis. By all means, make use of the Guided Choice Spend Down tool to evaluate annuities and see how it affects your retiree spending plan. And revisit your plan and revise the plan annually, if not more frequently as your circumstances change.